something just hit me that connects the two of you that I just realized. Both of you have had the experience of having to play the music of Eddie Van Halen live. Because Steve, of course, you and David Lee Roth's band for years, and Joe, you're currently doing it, playing predominantly the Hagar era with Sammy. You're coming here to Vegas very soon to do another run of it. But I'm curious about that, and have you compared notes about it, and have you, discussed your approaches to it? Because it's something, you've both gone into that sacred ground and done it remarkably well, but that's a connecting thing too that maybe people might not immediately realize. Steve, your thoughts on that?
Well, this was many years ago in the 80s when that opportunity came up. And, I was filled with, as they say, piss and vinegar, and I thought it was a great opportunity to play some amazing guitar parts because Edward's parts, they're like, little orchestrations. They fit beautifully on your hands and they're just constructed so well. And they're fun. They're really fun to play. Now, when I was doing this, I wasn't thinking very deeply in regard to how exactly did he touch the instrument, because that was a line that I didn't want to cross because A, I wouldn't do it very well, and B, I'd be much better at doing it just what felt naturally to me. So really that's what I did. And I had enough chops and enough joy at the time to make the parts work a particular way. Yeah.
There's a really big difference in what happened with Steve and myself having to, confront this fantastic catalog of Ed's work. And the main thing was that when Steve was with David Lee Roth, Ed was still alive and kicking and making great music. So that puts a weird pressure, I think, on Steve. Anyone who's asked to reflect on someone else who's still out there touring,
Right.
making albums. And conversely, I'm out with Sam, but unfortunately Ed has passed away. But that brings a different kind of a element of respect and reverence. You don't want to change it too much, but my gig is I'm not an impressionist or an impersonator. I'm so who I am. I can't sound like anybody else, even if I tried. So I just, as Steve said, you try to learn the parts. You enjoy how beautifully they're put together, and you bring as much joy to it as possible. But yeah, we had to approach it differently because of that one thing. That was really remarkably different, I think. And
Yeah.
but as I said to Steve the other day, some of the stuff for me is still feels awkward. And I know that from watching clips, it came so naturally to Ed.
Yeah.
And I was just working on a song called Cabo Wabo, and that's got some typical idiosyncratic Ed Van Halen things in there that I would never play. So as you're playing him, you go like, why did he do that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be more fun or more
Yeah.
natural if it was done this way? But then I got to stop myself and just say, learn what he did, start there.
And that being said, Joe, you've told me, and you do it phenomenally well, and people have another chance to see it very soon with 2 runs here in Vegas coming up. But you put a lot into it. Like you told me last time we spoke, that right down to the amps and the way your sound and the way you designed your heads. I mean, there was a lot that you put into it to do it, in the way that you needed to get it done.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, if we're really getting guitar nerd like, there's the maybe 3 or 4 different eras of Ed's tone. So it depends on the gig. Like for Steve, it was, they weren't doing any Hagar era stuff when Steve was playing. the David Lee Roth era stuff. And I'm out primarily, as you said, focusing on Sam's period with the band. And we just do a few songs. Maybe we rehearse about 5 of the Roth era songs. Just to make sure that we have them in the can and just wait to see what Mike wants to do every night, you know. But
Right.
there's a difference in the guitars and the amps that he was using, and there's no way to get, you know, an old 68 Plexi to sound like a Soldano or a
Yeah.
5150 and vice versa. So like what's a guitar player to do if he's got to do all of it and he doesn't want to step on some little modeler pedal, you know? So I think I mentioned to you that I kind of focused on Live Without a Net as being one of my favorite live Van Halen documents because it sounded like his sound was pretty much like right in between those two elements. And then he just would play the whole show that way. And I thought that's fun. You get one sound going,
Yeah.
and then you can just go wherever you want. Just use your volume control and don't worry about, you know, nailing the sound for each different era that spans decades, you know.